Welcome to the podcast, Journeys of Deepening Trust. And today I have with me Timothy Bacon. Welcome, Timothy.
Hi, Tanya. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you. Good to have you on the podcast.
Thank you.
So
Good to be
I'm
here.
I'm I'm really looking forward to our discussion today. Yeah, Tim's a good friend, so we have lots of discussion. So you'll be like a fly on the wall on this one of our frequent discussions. So as you know, I've recently changed or simplified the name of the podcast. And I think it's implicit in that Journeys of Deepening Trust is that process that we follow to deepening trust, whether that's deepening trust in ourselves or deepening trust in whatever we align with spiritually. And as you know, I called it following spirit, or some people say the heart, or living in the present moment. So there's that whole process as we move into that deepening trust that moves us away from that fear paradigm and that conditioning that is very often the expectation of our society. That's the road we should go down. So would you like to say something about your process and your journey, Tim?
Um, yeah, my process has been a lifetime process. Um, I was always quite a spiritual child. I was always a bit, I don't know, unique. And then I had a near-death experience when I was age 10, which solidified. So like I've been there, seen that, done that, bought the t-shirt. And so it just deepened. I was sort of, as a child, I was observing life differently because you have this traumatic experience. And so like all my life, it's been spent investigating spiritual study, looking at spiritual modalities, reading all the books that I could. So it's been like, I would say the past 40 years, but definitely the last 25 years where I've really invested myself. So, and I'm born under the 29th gate within the I Ching, within the Human Design system. So it's all about commitment. The 29th gate is the gate of commitment. So yeah, I can definitely, it's an internal pull. It's like a soul's calling to actually fulfill something. Like I'm still on the commitment. So
And it is, isn't it? It is a journey of commitments when I guess there's so much there to distract us, and pulling us in different directions away from that commitment. And especially, I think more and more, I've been noticing there's a lot going on that I think because I'm pretty much anchored into my path now, and I'll be like, no, this is my direction. Yes, I might have the skills and the tools to be able to help people in other situations, but actually this is my path, and
yeah.
not to be distracted by that. So would you like to um and I'd also like to bring in, you mentioned about the sort of human design and gate 29 and that being commitment, but the other thing that goes with that is depth. I think, is that within the gene keys?
Well, it is
And
the gate of depth. There's two gates of depth. There's the 44, but yeah, the 29th gate is what they call the deep within the deep. So the Chinese within I Ching would call it like the true depth. It's water over water. So they call it the abysmal, the abyss. So it's the depth of the emotions. It's like when you consider that water represents the emotional self. So it can be a portent of danger within the I Ching if it appears in a reading. And I certainly understand that because in order to commit to a spiritual path, then you've got to accept everything that comes with that. And it has been difficult. I've mentioned that before with in a different podcast, but the beauty outweighs the difficulty because the thing is with commitment is when you sow a seed of commitment to something greater than self, then you have to follow it to the culmination point. And the culmination point for me will be death, the point of death, because like it forms the channel of discovery. It talks to the gate 46. So like you're constantly discovering in the commitment, and that means that you have to abandon any sense of logic. You just have to go with the flow. So the more you invest and the more you discover, then it just comes breathtaking. Often tap my chest because the 46th gate is in the G center, in the heart center. So,
Wow.
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Mm.
Yeah. So what I really liked is I was connecting a bit with the Gene Keys at the end of last year, beginning of this year. And Richard Rudd said something about when the world gets shallow, that's when you start getting deep. And I was like, oh, I really like that. That's going to be one of my mantras for this year.
Yeah.
So um yeah, could you've spoken about that commitment and the depth. Have you got any sort of examples or stories? You mentioned about your near-death experience. Is there anything that could sort of demonstrate that yeah, that that process? Or a story that might illustrate might be better way of
Story
putting
that, there's so many. It's one of those ones where you put on the spot, you've got the smorgasbord of experiences. I just find that the more I commit, the more I actually invest in this path. And sometimes I'm studying 20-hour days, and that's including I'm running my own business, I'm working full time too. But there's so many synchronicities. There's just so many. You know that you're achieving something, and it's like the more that you achieve and the more that you experience, then it cements that there is something grander. There's a greater plan at work. As in this realm of work that we do, we know that. And so, like, the more that you invest time with, the spiritual realms, then the more they start paying attention. And so it literally can be like just a thought can occur and then minutes it's manifested. But there's been many wonderful, wonderful experiences where it literally takes my breath away. There are nights where I'm just sat there, like just engaging this thing, and it talks to me and guides me, and I'm deepening. I've been doing the Gateway experience. Robert Monroe, the Outer Body Traveler. He had a trilogy of books, the Journeys Out of the Body trilogy, and I've dipped into it every now and again, but I've really committed to it. And oh wow, what I'm experiencing within those realms at the moment is more pronounced, more definite, more visual, so to
Mm.
speak. But yeah, there's anything I set my mind to with my commitment, then the more I discover, then the more it reacts and displays on the world stage. And you can't look at the world the same way. You can't, because it takes this in. I've probably not done that any justice whatsoever for what you're looking for, but yeah.
That's fine. There was a little bit of lag in the video then, but the sound, as it often does, seems to catch up. So um yeah, one of the things I'd like to say about you, Tim, is channeling. There's a lot of talk about channeling these days, and most people sort of channel when I say an entity, I mean like an angel or a being or a group of beings, but you channel systems. Like you'll
Yeah.
connect with something like human design or astrology, and then you start to channel that. Would
Yeah.
you like to say something about that
Yeah.
experience?
It is really interesting. I'm designed to answer questions. So I'm designed I mean, I can try and like, oh, can I tell you this? But I'm literally designed to answer questions. Now, in the human design system, I don't know whether your viewers will know this, but you have your conscious side and you have your subconscious side. You have all your planets on either side, so it activates. And on the side, I have Mercury as the 20 the gateway information in the now, and the line six there is wisdom. I always say my internet's unstable. And because I've got the full channel there, then Ra Uru, who is the person who brought human design to the world, says that anybody who has the 20.6 on a Mercury gate there as a full channel is an astral channel. So if somebody comes to me and wants to dive deep into their spiritual self or their charts, because many modalities that I look into, then phew, it just comes. I could speak for 5 hours just on one placement if I needed to, which I'm known for. But yeah, there is a definite sense of there's always a nervousness sometimes. It's like with a podcast, I always get nervous, and it's the mind. When the mind's there, there's like, oh, you know, you're having to watch yourself, but all of a sudden the mind will move out of the way. Then I become an observer. Then I can witness what comes forth from me in that moment.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much more to it than that. It's obviously, you know, the push stakes here. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's like some people say it's like getting out of the way, you know, you're getting out.
Yeah. Yeah, if the timing's right, if the question that is asked is correct, then I can literally feel myself pull back and then whoosh, this avalanche of information will start pouring forth. But it won't just pour forth on one modality, it will then start doing a tapestry of all the other modalities to create a greater whole. And nobody's got time to accept that sort of influx of information, which is quite frustrating because I need people to be committed, like in order for them to experience what I'm experiencing, you know. I think this is something I spoke to you about before is in order for people to really project and like progress on the path of spirituality, then you need commitment. You need to really, like I always say to clients, you've got to analyze self first. You've got to look at like, what is your role in interaction with the world? Because that's where it begins. Like it is a deepening into self and an analysis of self in all interactions. And then when you do that, you can recognize that your beliefs and your how you view the world, your conscious view of the world changes. And so everything, the world changes alongside it too. Much like the Kybalion, you know, Hermetic wisdom. Um,
Yeah.
what we perceive, its manifestation, isn't it? The universe is based on seven hermetic principles from yeah, the Kybalion.
Mhm.
Yeah. Deep subject, very deep.
Yeah. So you touched on it a little bit, and so going back to that kind of um, you know, following that spiritual guidance.
Yeah.
I know within the human design system, um, there's different ways of connecting that. We're all designed to um, connect with that in different ways or respond to that in different ways. I have had somebody on before, like Tiffany, who we spoke about that a bit, but I think we just spoke about the generators.
Yeah.
So I know there's so would you like to say something around those different ways of responding or receiving or
Yeah.
um
There are there are four types within human design, so four energy types, but there is a one subset. So the first one would be the manifester. They're approximately 9% of the population, and their role is to initiate. They get the ideas from the ethers, and their role is to initiate. They have a very closed and repelling aura in order for people to back off. So they're here to like just initiate the workers, which is the generators. So then you've got the generators and you've got the manifesting generators. So the generators are designed to build. So they're here to respond to what is requested of them. And the generators have a finite amount of energy that must be used through the day. And then they must go to bed to rest and then wake up with a full tank. Whereas the manifesting generator, so I'm a subtype of the generator and the manifester. So I'm here to inform then, sorry, like to build, but I'm a self-builder. So I have like subsets of like the manifestor role, but also the generator. Then you have the projectors, which are approximately 21% of the population. And they're the guides. They are the people who are here to guide us into the future. And they have different authorities. There's all different authorities in the body graph, so I won't go too deep on it. But yeah, they are the guides. They're here to be invited. Now, what you'll find with the projectors is that often that they try and give their wisdom, but it's not heard. So until a projector is invited, then their wisdom can fall on deaf ears. And then they have they can feel bitter about not being invited. And then we have 1% of the population, which is the reflectors. And the reflectors are here to sample the environment over the moon's lunar cycle and then feed back what they've picked up within the sampling of the environment. So it's like if you had a business and you wanted your business to run correctly, but there was all things were going wrong within the business, then you could get a a reflector in to come and sample. And because a reflector doesn't have any defined centers, so there's 9 centers within the body graph, they just have hanging gates off these centers. So during the moon's cycle, the moon will activate every gate within their design. And so there's
Mm.
all these like fireworks going off. So they have definition here, they have definition here. So through that month, they will become a manifester, a generator, a projector. So they get all this wisdom, and then they can feed back their information. It's eternally fascinating. It's such a deep subject, but very true to form. You know, I don't think there's anybody I've ever done a reading for that hasn't says, wow, that is me to a T. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And how about things like this, the sacral response um and that kind of thing? There's
Well, yeah, I mean, the generators are quite lucky really because we get a definite hint from like there's no awareness to the sacral, there's just response. So like generators will tend to they have like a if the body will react to what it wishes to engage and invest its energy in. So the body would, or a, maybe. So you get these clear indications when you're requested. But again, there's all subsets of different generators. Now, I'm an emotional manifesting generator. So when you're an emotional type within human design, there's no clarity in the now. So I might go, and I've done it many years. I've done so many courses and, gained so many qualifications. But in retrospect, I wish I'd waited for the response. Had I known the information then, there's many things that I would not have invested my time in. But because I'm emotional in the moment, yeah, I want to do that. And then my energy goes, yeah, let's do this. And I'm booking courses and, then you get your qualification and you think, well, what was all that about? Well, that's part of the discovery process of the 29th gate. So like you get
mm,
excited, you discover, you invest, and then it's like, okay, what else is there to discover, sort of thing.
that brings up something interesting as well that I've heard the discussion and I've been part of that discussion is in different ways is just because you get an indication in whichever way that is to do something doesn't mean it has to be done in the now. Like, for
No,
example, there's something I've been working on for about 7 years that I'm only just starting to launch. And I
yeah,
suddenly realized, oh yeah, it's the perfect timing. And I needed that 7 years.
yeah.
So um so some things do take the time. It isn't like you get the receive the message and yes, I have to do it now. It's there's a process that
There
we
is,
we to go
yeah, there is. Like I say, anybody, if anyone were to pull their chart and they saw they were emotional as a generator and a manifesting generator, they would certainly identify that what's yesterday is a no tomorrow. There could certainly come some clarity. So it's good to sit with your decisions. Luckily for me, most of my decisions have already been contemplated in the ethers. Like been a desire to do this. So I can rest assured now that I can invest my energy knowing that it's something I want to do. But there's many things now that I do say, no, I'm not interested. I'm not gonna go there. Been there before.
I'll try. Okay,
Yeah.
so how does that information from the human design chart correspond in astrology or cross over in astrology? Or um, how could you get the same information from an or similar information from an astrological chart?
Well, the thing is with the human design chart is more your genetic disposition. So it's looking at how you're built on a genetic level. So it's like what's activated. All of the chart, we embody all of the chart, but anything that's defined is what you have stable and consistent access to. So the openness there. So when you look at the planetary, where the planets are going to define like the gates or the channels that are active within you. But there is a differentiation where the planets are more, obviously, with astrology, it's more the psyche, the soul, like the soul's journey, whereas their placements within are more going to have more alignment to how we behave, so to speak. Like if you can imagine, like my son in astrology is in the second house in Leo, 29 degrees Leo. Whereas in the body graph, that's activated the 29th gate, which gives me that commitment process. So they're aligned, but they are more divergent paths. Yeah. I don't know whether I've explained that well enough, but yeah, there is a vast difference, like more human design behaviors, correct decision making, astrology, just the cosmos, like the soul, the psyche.
Okay, so one of the things I've known Tim for a little while, and one I think I've shared this with you before, is this memory of like when we were in the spirit realms in astrology school together, writing our charts, right? Whereas mine I feel is relatively simple and multi-layered, of course, and deep. But it looks very simple on the surface, whereas Tim's is like more of a work of art. um, so yeah, it's just an interesting memory. I mean, whether it was in the spirit world or in Lemuria or someplace, I have no idea. But it's quite a vivid memory. And and so as we kind of bringing in more of the astrology, we're going through some really exciting astrology
Huge.
at the
Huge. I'm really feeling it. Several of, well, the outer planets and my MC and my ascendant currently are being engaged by transit by all of the outer planets. So I'm really feeling this change because we know we've got like Neptune and Saturn meet at 0 degree Aries on February the 20th. So it's this whole new season. Like 0 degree Aries is the birth of something new. It's the culminate. We've like it's been on 29 degree Pisces, which is the end of the zodiac. The whole zodiac experience. So my MC, my midheaven, my vocation is 29 degree Pisces. So you can imagine I've just had like Neptune and Saturn dancing around this position for so long. Like, we get exactitude for 0 degree February the 20th. But yeah, there's so many things.
Sorry, can I interrupt you there, Tim? I've got like I have my Chiron, which is the wounded healer at 0 degrees Aries, so it's quite
Oh wow.
interesting for me as well. But
Yeah.
what could you just explain for the people who are listening and watching what the midheaven represents?
Yeah, the midheaven represents the highest point in the sky when you were born, so it will indicate where your vocational path lies. So it will be, if you pull a chart, it will say MC and it will be designated by a sign and a house. So it will give indication of where your vocation lies. Mine's in the ninth house in Pisces. So Pisces is the spiritual seeker, the consciousness soup, the abandonment to something greater than self. And so I've got my MC there, and that the ninth house is seeking God, higher learning, like philosophy, like journeying, like distant lands. So I see it as distant lands. Most of my friends are around the world. Like I've got friends in the local community, but I engage people all around the world. So for me, it's very telling that I'm such this spiritual, disciplined, like seeker. And there's my MC in the ninth house in Pisces with Chiron close by, which is where the wound was. So like I had my Chiron return in April 2024. So I was always admonished for my beliefs. So nobody ever really engaged me because I was engaging something greater. So it all just comes together beautifully. Like it's a bottomless subject. This is surface level. I always say it's like a grain of sand off an infinite beach. You know, when I work with people and they go, "Oh my God, I can't take all this information." And I'm like, that's like a grain of sand off an infinite beach. There's so much more. Like that's the thinnest surface layer of what's to come. Most people fall off because they just can't.
Mhm. So that's the midheaven. So go back to this what's happening on the 20th of February with the Neptune
Yeah.
Saturn conjunction at 0 degrees Aries, which is like, whoa, it's massive.
Yeah. It's huge. And we're seeing it already on the stage. We're seeing like the breakdown of structures and Neptunian waters. Like if you can imagine Neptune represents like spirituality, the dissolving of things, the illusion, the deception, fancy. And Saturn represents structure and responsibility and things that are built. And so you can see that like on the world stage now with the Epstein files and like all the corrupt governments, you can see the it's exciting times. What's going to happen on the exactitude date of like what is Neptunian waters going to reveal the more it washes away and
Mm,
dissolves the current structures. And so like it's a seeding point, that exactitude moment where they both occupy the same space within degree, time, space, and motion is a seeding point of something new because we've never experienced anyone alive today. We've never experienced Neptune in this position before because Neptune's got like a 160-year orbit before it gets back to this
mm,
position. And this exact position, this 0 degree where they're meeting, I believe it's some astrologers say it's taken 6,000 years for it to occur again. But I did ask ChatGPT the other day. I was just like, when did this last occur? And ChatGPT said 9,000 years. So what's 3,000 years when you're looking at such a length of time?
I
But
think
it's
I've seen something else which said it's about 6,000 years. So it's
Yeah. I think Pam Gregory, I recently saw something with Pam Gregory where she said it's estimated to be 6,000 years. And it's like the turning of a safe. Like, obviously, Saturn's got like this 29-year orbit and
mm,
Neptune's got its 160. And so, like, you've got to align them both up again, like on two separate wheels for them to meet at 0 degree Aries. So it's huge. Life is never going to be the same again,
yeah.
the revelations that are to come. But it also means, because like Neptune is the planet of spirituality, so people within Aries, Aries is the first fire sign, so it's driven, assertive action. So you can see this awakening of people are waking up to the corrupt power structures of the world, but they're also going to be taking a deeper dive into their
Mm,
spiritual nature. Regardless of whether they believe it or not, this is naturally going to occur,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's yeah, I think it's going to be a difficult process for many. I mean, for us, we can see it as exciting because a lot of this information we've been privy to for a long time or we've been
Yeah,
aware of for a long time.
yeah,
But to a lot of people, it's really new um, and undeniable
yeah,
now. Before, maybe it could have been put down to conspiracy theory or whatever. Um, but I just want to bring in an analogy because a few years ago, with my, just with my own experiences and the way my life was going, possibly around my Chiron return, but this idea of structure in my life, how to combine that structure and fluidity.
mm,
And I used to see it as like this scaffolding, this enormous sort of partially rusted scaffolding emerging out of the sea. And it was like, how can I change that structure? How can I bring that structure in a way where it works with that fluidity? And
yeah.
I was also studying something, I was still studying process work at the time. And it took a while, but it shifted into a coral reef. And coral reef is a structure, but it's an organic structure. And because
Yeah.
it works with the nature of the ocean, of the sea, and it
Yeah.
encompasses everything. So Saturn might be about structure and Neptune might be about fluidity, but it there's something about force, isn't there? There's that difference between power and force, I feel, as well.
Yeah.
Um, um, to allow new forms of structure, new ways of that are more aligned. Um,
Absolutely. And you can look at like people have been deluded in a sense. If you can imagine like Neptune's just coming out of Pisces. Now, Neptune is the ruler of Pisces, one of the two rulers in modern astrology, Jupiter being the other, which is the traditional ruler. So when you consider that it's been in its homeland, so it's been in rulership for like 14 years, and when you consider the delusional aspects of Neptune and the illusory aspects of Neptune, is people have been scrolling Facebook, glamour, Instagram, and so people have been lost in this delusional quality of life, and like there's a lot of fancy, isn't there? There's a lot, oh, they're just ticking on by. But this is where it all changes with Aries. There was a wonderful thing happened, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, to give you an idea of these powerful forces that, as above, so below, we're all part of. I think it's a place in Greece. It may be Greece. I'm not sure. I can't do the locale. But there was a place in Greece, let's say Greece, and there was a rainfall all of a sudden for 24 hours, and it revealed an ancient city. So the waters washed away this ancient city, and they reckon the city is 1,000 years old, and it's a famous city that disappeared off the map. But these Neptunian waters have dissolved and shown the structure of an ancient civilization, which is there's going to be more of this, So if I could give people a bit of an investigation, go look at this city. I mean, I could find it, but I can't remember exactly what it's called. But it gives an idea of these universal forces on a grander, more mundane, which is world astrology level of what you can expect to see. So like just the exposing of corruption, but the new drive to govern self,
yeah.
spiritual self, spiritual dives.
And also, so is there's that discovery which can be beneficial as well as sort of challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
As where that
it's
throws the gate
I,
full
I
of
can't I can't express enough. I can't express enough that like people do need to start paying attention because this is the most fantastic time to be alive. There's so much corruption in the world, but what the planets are doing at the moment, there's a wonderful minor grand trine between Pluto, Neptune, and Saturn and Uranus at the moment, and there's just so much beauty. Like when you start paying attention to the heavens and you start like doing a deep dive into how you're built, like not only is Saturn and Neptune meeting, but that's going to impact everyone's Saturn and Neptune placement in their own chart. So, what area of life is it going to affect you? Where is your Saturn? Where is your Neptune? Where is your Aries? So, there's all these different things that you have to like really take on board to actually really express what's coming through you know. And that's what I love. I love taking people like, give me your details. It's bit of a pain in the arse. So I was always saying, do you want me to have a look at your chart for you? And well, then the avalanche of information would come. But
I
it's
know we're
it's my
being very
passion.
restrained, aren't we,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
in this conversation
Yeah,
as
yeah,
as we're recording it. So anything else for us to look out for this year then?
yeah.
Um,
April the 26th, Uranus. Uranus has been, I think, 2019, I believe it was. Uranus went into Taurus. And Uranus is the planet of shock and disruption and innovation. It sideblinds you, blindsides you, sorry. And it's been in Taurus. And like I always say to people, when you consider Taurus represents luxury and, beauty and harmony and like security within the home. And then what happened? COVID happened. So you've got this planet of shock as a collective went into Taurus and everything went Pete-tong. Everything went all up the wall.
Mm.
You know, everyone got disrupted into their usual pattern. Now, it went into Gemini recently, very briefly, but then it went retrograde again. So it's gone backwards into Taurus, but it's just gone direct again. It's just moving forward. So April 26th is where Uranus moves into Gemini. And so, like, expect, like, Gemini is perception, it's how we communicate, ruled by Mercury. So it's the mind. And then, like, there is a connection between, like, Uranus. Like, you could say that Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. So you're in a Mercury ruled sign with Uranus as a higher octave. So it's going to be really interesting the next 7 and 8 years of what is going to be communicated. How are people going to be thinking? What are people going to be communicating? Because where Uranus lands does not mess around. It really does bring shock and innovation. But shock is always good. Shock is needed. Like shock, sometimes we experience shock, but it's that shock that sets us on the correct path because everything can crumble within shock. And then we go back to self. Then we really like, okay, we've got a reference point to shock, and there's a more focused direction we can go based on what we've experienced within the shock. So it shakes you to your core. It's almost like a soul awakening. So I'm really interested to see what happens when Uranus goes direct into Gemini. I think it's
That's
1:29 a.m.
that's really curious because
Mm.
especially what you were saying with sort of Neptune in Pisces and all the scrolling and
Yep,
everything else. And it makes me wonder about, sort of AI and those sort of te te
exactly.
technological advances that might actually crumble.
Exactly that. Yeah,
They might not come to anything. We have all of these well, some people have all of these fears and worries about it, but
yeah.
um, we may well be shocked out of that direction. Do you think that's a possibility?
Absolutely. I mean, I always associate Uranus and like Gemini as like AI of that theme. Astrology as well. Represents astrology within the chart. Um, and then we've got to look to the 2027 shift that's incoming next year, February the 15th, 2027. We've got the human design change. So if you look like within the human design system, they look at 412-year cycles. And we're currently in the last throes of the last 412-year cycle. So, like, if you can imagine, like, there's 8 gates within the G center. I'm not going to go too deep here, but then there's 8 gates within the G center which represent love and direction and like that sort of thing. And then you've got like 8 other keys, which are other energies that come in. And shock is one of the background frequencies. So the gate 51 in human design, the hexagram 51 is called shock. And so you know that shock is coming because it's going to be one of the background frequencies that's going to disrupt everyone. And so
Mm.
I've experienced shock. My Chiron gate within human design was in the gate of shock, and I experienced bam, 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 7 or 8 shocks over a good 6 month period that totally took me offline, totally took me offline, but deepened my spiritual journey. Like it was needed. It rose me out of a slumber, even though I'm not in a slumber, but more focused on bringing this information to people. So there's going to be many shocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, many, many.
Would
Mm.
you like to say a little bit more about that? Because what I'm sensing, and because I'm also aware of your experiences, but um, it's that idea, isn't it, where we're kind of not really in a slumber, and yet still there's still, I guess it depends where our focus is, and then maybe it's the context that we find ourselves in, or there's something else, or we see something from another new perspective, and it's like, oh, and that could also could be because of our own expansion of consciousness, right? So it might not necessarily be because we're in in a slumber as such. It's just that we come into a new frequency, a new level of consciousness, and so things. Well, it's like you were saying earlier as well about the tide going out. Suddenly you can see things. So, yeah, would you like to say something to that, either, in any way that you'd like to address that, to that
Yeah, I
apparent
think
being woken out of a slumber?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it harks back to a lot of what I've discussed about like this illusory quality of Neptune in Pisces. So people have been under this like the veil, like they're not seeing beyond the veil, they're just trapped in this fantasy sort of land. Now the veil's almost transparent now. It's falling. So like here's what I think is going to happen is that people are going to be disillusioned. A lot of what they've invested their thought process into over the last 14 years, well, Saturn's bringing a seriousness now, moving into Aries. So I think a lot of people are going to be disillusioned with what they have thought they were accomplishing in the world. The structures are going to, like the government structures, the power cabal or whatever, that's going to be exposed more and more the more we go on. And I think this is where the shock's going to occur because it's almost like people are going to find that they may have been living a lie for a few years based on what we've been informed by the government, these world elites. And so there's going to be a huge disillusionment. And so then when you're bringing in the elements of shock, like with the Gate 51 and, the awareness that Uranus is now moving into Gemini, and this is how people are going to be perceiving the world. What's going to be communicated? Because Gemini is the first air sign. So it's the mind. It's the first engagement of the mind of how we communicate and how we think and how we trade and, have discourse. But Gemini is not a deep sign. It just wants quick information in the moment. Like Sagittarius opposite, that's where the depth goes. Um, so I do think like we're just going to see it. We're just going to see that people are going to be moving into a more of a I'm going to govern me now. I mean, one of the things with the 2027 shift, I don't know, you see, this is like talking about this sort of stuff. I know it verbatim, but to explain concepts without any type of foundation, but I'll do my best. So there are 36 channels within human design. And we have an active channel at the moment in the current 412-year cycle, and it's the channel of community. So it's the channel of like family, friendship, working on behalf of governments. If governments look after us, that's very brief brush strokes there. So that's breaking down, and we can see it with like how can I say this? Like the breakdown of like traditional family values. There's pregnancies are on the decline. Like women are wanting to go out with work, and I really support that. But it's almost like there's like we're losing sight of the masculine and the feminine and the breakdown of that, if that makes sense. But what we move into is like more self-governance, more intuition. Like we have this one channel, but then we've got these three channels that form, and the three channels that form within the new background frequency are all based on like intuition, where we place our power and acting in the now. So these are like the animalistic qualities like of intuition and how we govern self, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's really interesting what you're saying from that perspective, because I feel um, the this idea of us like that nuclear family structure is there was never a natural form of community for us to be in. It's like we came from, say, foraging nomadic communities, then we move into agricultural communities with extended families, and then the cities are built up. And I guess this is when, as capitalism, as we then move into exchanging our labor for money, then with the capitalism, and then we become more and more um, into these nuclear families. And so there is no community really, not in the way that there was and that we originated from.
Yeah.
So I know that in many ways that's been breaking down for a long time. There's still, I think it's becoming really apparent, because there's a part of me that thought, oh yeah, we've dealt with all of that, and then there's things coming to light, and I'm thinking, oh, we so haven't. There's still a lot of those dynamics that we still need to work through.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of complexity. So yeah, so that does need to be broken down, I guess, before, so we can move back into more authentic community. But we need to have that
Well,
authentic relationship with ourselves first.
Well, I mean, what all the indicators are is the channel community. I mean, it's been on the first line frequency, which is the foundations, because there's six stages to an energy. So when I talk of my 29th gate, there's six levels of that. So like if you viewers look at the I Ching, you'll see that there's six lines per hexagram. So we're currently on the first line, which is foundational. So everything's breaking down. The foundations are breaking before we move into the sixth line frequency of the new incoming energy. So the sixth line frequency is more the role models. So it's a role model energy. So it's almost like from those communities, role models will come forth and just live. They will just be as they are, as they're meant to live. And it's those people that are going to shape the future. So it's not looking to establish gurus like Epstein's revealed a lot of interesting names of like within the spiritual community as of late. So it's going to be people operating from a more authentic place, just being who they are. And in that process, that sixth line process, they will be looked to as though to say, I'm just going to live my life like this. But when you look at the community aspect, there's so many things attacking the family home. There's things that obviously there's such we would need to open up a whole discourse on what we need to say here. But you look at what's taking place in families, the just breakdown, the demasculinization of the men. There's all these things that. Again, I'm just saying comments like Bob comments without any explanation. And I hope you
Yeah.
viewers don't take me out of context there because there's a wealth of information that goes with that. But there has been
Yeah.
an attack on the family.
It is really complicated,
It
because
really is.
I'll give a couple of examples, just I guess for the watchers and viewers. And one is, and I was thinking of one this morning. But one is really, in, say, during the witch trials, people often see that as attack against women, which of course it was generally, but
Yeah.
they had to attack the men first, so that the men, the fathers, the brothers, the husbands, the sons,
Mm.
so that they wouldn't protect the women. And it was the same. So here in the Highlands where I live as well, as part of during the clearances, is they did the same thing. They would send the men away to work, and then they would attack the communities when it was only the women who were there. I
Yeah.
say they, right? We'll
Yeah.
just leave that
Yeah.
as, and so what you're saying is it's not, it's this division between the genders, is
Yeah.
very complex, and it's been, what's the word, it's, I feel that there's been a deliberate manipulation
It absolutely
around
has.
that,
It
which is,
absolutely has.
yeah,
If you can
which,
imagine, like the first line frequency of this 412-year cycle is roughly about 72 years. And, one of the seven Hermetic principles is the balance of masculine and feminine. So, they are two divine forces. You've got the strength of the divine masculine and the love and wisdom of the divine feminine. And so they are polar, they are energetic forces. And like there's this blurring, again, there's this delusional quality that is being brought in and it's destroying families. There's kids that are being like, we can transition. There's all this indoctrination of children within schools. And it literally is the breaking of the community, the family, because the gates that make the channel of community is the gate 37, which I have 37.6, which is the gate of friendship. It's the gate of bringing spirituality to the tribe. And then the 40th gate, I don't have that. is the gate of deliver or deny. So in this channel framework, it's like the 37, if we can look at ourselves as people within communities, we will work for you, hence giving money to government organizations, the gate 40, we will pay you to service us. And we've got this beautiful channel of community where our taxes pay for the things that we experience day to day and rely on. And even that's breaking down because you can't rely on your council tax. You can't rely on like these corrupt politicians. We're being taxed to the nth degree. And that's breaking. That goes
Yes.
2027, which also means that any child born beyond that date is going to embody the new frequencies. Like, there's just going to be a total shift of dynamics because anyone who's alive today is born under the cross of planning and the cross of the Maya, which are, again, it's depth within human design to understand that. So we're all embodying these universal energies within every cell of our body, as well as our own design. But again, new blood is going to come in, new souls are going to come in order to project us into the future. I mean, what another one of the gates that's coming in is the gate 55, which is the gate of abundance, the gate of spirit. Where's your spirit? Where's
Yeah.
your spirit?
And
So,
I just want to bring that back because I'm keeping an eye on the time too.
yeah, yeah.
So I want just to sort of,
I've only just
you've
started.
only just started. I know there's so much more we could say, but I'm hopefully we've started a lot of conversations for the people watching and listening. But bringing that back, that abundance and embodying the spirit back to that new leadership is just by being your authentic self
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
just doing your own thing. And that's that sense of freedom, right? That sense
Yeah.
of freedom, and that's freedom with responsibility,
Yeah.
responsibility for the community, um
Well,
at least for the new community, without having
well,
to
yeah.
sacrifice your own authenticity. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
it's a
mean,
new form of leadership. It's more in
yeah.
being.
I could say a lot around that because one of the things that the new body graph highlights, there's so many changes coming up within the actual body graph itself. So what we see is the body graph now is going to change come 2027. But one of the things that's going to be the background frequency for the next 412 years is community is not going to matter. It's going to be survival of the fittest. It's going to be, I'm going to govern self. I'm going to look after me. I'm going to look after my own. And so this is the concern, like within the spiritual awakening, there is going to be communities that form, but they're going to be more isolated of like, I govern me. This is these are my goods. This is my yield. And there's
Mm.
not going to be more of a sense of sharing, where community is all about sharing of like, let's pay our taxes, let's look after the needy in society. It's worked. It's really worked the last, well, has it worked in a sense? Because the elite are always going to take cream from the top.
So could that be where that differentiation could be between what happens if we go down a route that's more AI committed in a non-organic way, shall we say? Because I believe AI could be beneficial if used correctly.
If used correctly.
Um, but we risk becoming really isolated if we go down that route. And yet, this talk of new earth, that's very much about being sovereign within ourselves, but in a way that um we can interact with others. So it kind of, it's like, oh, how does that all fit
It's
within
going to
that?
be it's going to be more select. It's going to be like the 59s in the background frequency. I'm not going to talk about the 59, but it is going to be more select. People, there's taglines per gate. Like there's a bunch of information per gate or hexagram, but there are taglines. And the tagline for the 59th gate here is the one night stand. So people aren't going to be coming together like in union as marriage, so to speak. And this
Mm.
isn't immediate. This is going to blend in over the years. But like again, the breakdown of community, part of community is marriage. like the 3740, it can represent the marriage. Um, and so people are going to be more selective of who they sleep with, who they engage with, like not just when I say one night stand, I don't just mean within a sexual sense. I mean they can be very selective of like in the moment, okay, you can help me in this moment, I can help you. But once that's done, it's over.
Yeah,
Does that
that's
make
how
sense?
I kind of envisage the new communities as such, is that kind of
Yeah.
traveling tradesman. I think the communities are going to be
Yeah.
rather, well, not all of them, but small, small groups of people. And then you'll have people who
Yeah.
are perhaps specialize, or they'll just travel from place to place with their sets of skills, and that they won't necessarily
Wow.
be in one place. Yeah.
Well, that's really
Um,
interesting you say that, and you've picked up on something there because the 51st gate within human design is representative of a traveling salesman that goes into a new established village. And because there's a tribal network and structure within like the establishment of that community, it takes one person to come in with different views and different opinions and to inject new blood into the tribe, to shock people into a different awareness of where they've come from to bring in new. So it's very interesting that you brought that traveling
there
salesman
you
up.
go.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So that,
I'd love to do a video with you where I actually detail this on a human design chart one time and
yeah,
like show the mechanics of it to your viewers. It's mind blowing. Yeah.
I think we'll have to do that. I'll make a note
Love that. I
because I
love
think
that.
we're going to wrap it up for now. But
Yeah.
I love that idea of how that just brings all of those different elements together of what that potentially
Yeah.
may look like in
Yeah.
the future.
Well, it's going to be about being shocked into a new awareness, like working out who do we want to connect with, like, and self-survival, like the whole idea. I mean, you can see it on the world stage now. People are becoming desperate for like money's tight, and like we haven't got the money to share. So you can already see the seeds of it incoming now.
Mm,
Whereas people are going to be more focused on like. Whereas, like within the community, like the Channel F community was like, yeah, you can borrow a cup of sugar or a cup of salt, and but there's going to be more. I haven't got the resources to share. I need to look after my own, and it's going to be like very intuitive led, very intuitive
mm,
in the now, and engaging our power correctly. No one governing, like you will
mm.
not govern me, which ties in with the breakdown of like these governments and so-called elites. I can't even say the word elites because it makes me
Okay.
feel a bit
Try
sick.
not to get too political. But I just
I
want to
know.
bring in one point you're saying about, the traveling salesman or tradesperson who comes
Mm,
in. It reminds me of like the sacred clown or the trickster within indigenous communities that they have who turns everything on their head, on its head all the time, to
yeah,
stop people becoming complacent in their perspectives,
yeah,
so that they're constantly having their perspectives challenged, and they
yeah,
play an essential role
yeah,
in a community.
yeah.
So it'd be good that if we have that
Well,
element that still.
it will be because tribal structures, you've got to toe the line. Like in a tribe, in a community, there's normally a this is what we do. This is what you do. You don't do that. You don't do against what people want to do within the tribe. So it takes that one person to come in and shock the tribe and say, I'm new blood. Who wants to mate with me? As an example of what happens within it sometimes takes that one person to come in and have a child within the community to bring that new awareness to a tribal structure. So. We'll see. But yeah, it's very interesting times. I'm just urging people to start waking up and like recognizing that they are so much more than the physical body. There are so
Mm,
many layers like to the physical body, and it's you're here to have an experience. You're here for the soul to evolve, and it's difficult. But the moment you go inwards, yeah, it's magic. So come work with us. Come work with us because yeah,
yeah, well, I'll put your contact details in the description
thank
box
you.
below, if
Thank you.
anybody wants to work with Tim with astrology, human design, and the other things that you do as well.
Yeah, there's many things, numerology, cartomancy, gene keys. Yeah, there's a lot.
Amazing.
Birth name as well, the birth name.
Yeah.
And it all ties in
Yes.
beautifully in a beautiful tapestry of, there's no denying if there's a
Uh,
creator source here, you just can't deny it. It's beautiful.
no, well, thank you ever so much.
No,
It
thank you for
looks like
having
we're
me.
going to be making a second video
I'd
already.
love to. Yeah, I'd love to bring an awareness like these. I understand that these are just words that I'm speaking, and in my head, it makes perfect sense. But people need to see it in action and understand what I'm talking about. So maybe we could do that. I'd
Yeah.
love to. Yeah,
Okay. Well,
yeah.
thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thanks ever so much, Tim. And
Thank
thank
you,
you,
Tanya.
everyone, for watching and listening. And we'll be back.
Okay.
Sending you much love
See you
from my
later.
heart to yours.